This is your Mountain Connection, presented by Evergreen Newspapers and the Clear Creek Current. This week's program covers the top news, sports, and opinions in your neck of the woods. Here's some of this week's top headlines. The Colorado Supreme Court has upheld an appeals court ruling that Idaho Springs has a right to exert control over Colorado Department of Transportation projects within the city limits. The decision by the state's highest court not to hear the appeal came Monday after a 2-year court battle with the State Transportation Department over the city's 1041 rulings. The decision also ends Douglas County's standoff with CDOT. Sales tax revenue in Georgetown was down 2.8% in July and was flat most of the rest of 2008 so far. Idaho Springs and the county also reported flat sales tax proceeds year to date as the towns prepare for another tight budget year. With the high gas prices, many travelers have opted to stick closer to home, bringing an influx of weekend traffic to the mountain region. But many of these day visitors aren't coming to shop. Across the nation, retail sales are down, even with the economic stimulus checks issued last spring. Retail activity saw only a slight increase in June and a drop in July. The county saw nearly a 10% drop in sales tax proceeds in June and July. The shopping season in Clear Creek and Idaho Springs experienced its biggest downturn in July, with an 18% decrease in sales tax revenues. Clear Creek Current editor Adrian Anderson joins us with this week's top story. Hi, Adrian. Thank you for joining us. So, do you want to talk about the big story for this week?
It's actually unfolded about 2 weeks ago, and the day before we're going to press, a woman from the Community Resource Center walked in and told me that a few people had lost their homes, actually about 10 to be exact. Yeah, they lost their home at the Peoriana Motel. A woman there found out when she was actually registering to vote for the first time in 46 years, or 46 years of living, went to register to vote at the county offices, and she put down her address, and the woman at the county treasurer's office said, "You live where?" And she said, she repeated the Peoriana Motel. They're under foreclosure. And of course, she was just shocked. Turns out 2 days later, she received a notice on her door from a lawyer, from a bank that actually owns the motel. It was in foreclosure in June. The owners, the Choys, had been charging rent to the residents of the place for the 3 months when they essentially had no legal authority to do so.
That's a heck of a way to find out that you're being moved. How did she take it?
Oh, she was shocked. And of course, the first thing she did was go back to her home and tell the other residents, which then actually led the Choys to kind of into a verbal dispute with her, telling her that she was causing her to lose her money. And she still feels to this day that she made the right decision by, of course, letting people know, because, the bank letter came 2 days later, and 4 days later they had to be they were evicted. They had to be out.
Where do things stand now?
Well, right now, 4 of the 10 residents are staying at the Lodge in Idaho Springs, which is another motel. It's actually, the owner wanted to start it as a hostel, but when he started it was after 9/11, and it was never, traveling kind of dipped after that for obvious reasons. And so it's now kind of an affordable living home, another place in town. And he actually changed his rules to allow them to have pets. He doesn't normally allow pets, but he took them in, and 4 of them are staying there. I don't know where the other 6 went. So right now, the Clear Creek Current is looking into doing a follow-up story to see if there is any legal recourse that can be taken against the Choys. The kind of people that were living at the Peoriana Motel they are in the lower spectrum of the workforce, and they don't have money to hire a civil lawyer. And many of the lawyers they spoke to said, "You know what? You're out of luck." So at this point, I'm going to be investigating if there is any, from the district attorney's level, any legal action that can be taken against the Choys.
What were the living conditions like at the hotel?
Well, that's interesting, because the Peoriana Motel has been an eyesore on the east end of town for several years, and it's got this bright pink, awful sign in front of it. It's pretty dilapidated. It's got old wood paneling falling off, shutters. An interesting thing about it is it's right next to the McDonald's, which employs a lot of foreign workers each year. So they also housed a lot of the foreign workers. Not many of them lost their home necessarily because they were leaving for the season anyway. But so it's kind of served as this workforce housing, but it's not up to par. And there's actually an effort in the county to create more workforce housing because it's hugely lacking.
Will be interesting to see in the weeks and months to come how this develops.
Yes, and this is just the first of many stories.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
With us now is sports editor Dan Johnson.
Homecoming has been awfully kind to the Clear Creek football team in recent years. They defeated Sheridan 34-6 2 weeks ago to pick up their fourth straight homecoming victory. The win was also significant in the fact that when you combine it with last week's victory over Denver Christian, the Gold Diggers are now 5-2 on the season and have legitimate playoff aspirations for the first time this decade. Here now is an interview with head coach Tony Villani following their victory over Sheridan.
No matter what else we do the rest of the year, we will have won 4 out of 5 at home.
Yeah.
And that was extremely important to us. We pushed that all week. The other thing we pushed is our seniors are going to graduate without ever having lost homecoming. This is 4 straight homecomings for us too. And we pushed that incentive. They had a great week of practice. They worked hard. And then we came here today early and sat in the stands and looked at the field, and we talked about how blessed we were to have this environment. The kids responded extremely well. We were afraid of this game because of last week, because we played really well against Kent, who's a superior team, and we felt like we would have a letdown against this team. And so that's what we were afraid of, but the kids just really, man, they really stepped up tonight. Everybody did. At the end of the game, we even had sophomores in that we're excited about. And we wanted to play even the younger kids, but the honest-to-God truth is I didn't feel like we could protect them. They were chipping and a little bit dirty, and we were worried about that.
This is Adrian with the Clear Creek Current, reading from the Vox Pop section, our opinion pages. Vox Pop stands for the people's voice. Bernie Dolan, an independent from Evergreen, sounds off this week on the financial bailout. He says, "No bailout for the speculators. Reinstitute the superseded protections of the Glass-Steagall Act of 1933 that Clinton trashed in 1999. Insist on reinstituting the progressive income tax to pay for a bailout if you can't stop it. Make the bailout punitive so that the financial institutions will only seek public assistance as a last resort. Demand the cessation of golden parachutes and put severe limits on executive pay. And most important, instead of a bailout, insist that the taxpayers receive preferred stock as equity at near the fire sale rates of the marketplace. And finally, don't let the people that caused this disaster to be the ones to try to fix it. Create a temporary agency managed by economics professors or bank examiners who do not have conflicts of interest with the financial industry. These, of course, are short-term patches to the system. Over the long haul, the government must reinstate regulations to reform the industry and to protect the economy and the American people from the greedy predators that always seem to rise to the top in a capitalist economy." Thanks, Bernie. If you would like to send letters into the Current, please email them to currenteditor@evergreenco.com. Letters are to be 250 words or less and are due the Friday before the following week's publication.
That concludes this week's Mountain Connection. For these stories and more, check us out online at www.clearcreekcurrent.com or find us wherever newspapers are sold. For Evergreen Newspapers and Clear Creek Current, this is Ian